A while ago, I lost someone who was close to me, and I would like to share how this has impacted my life and how I have coped. In addition to this loss, I had been feeling overwhelmed by so many things that were happening in my life at that time. Things I needed to do, tasks I needed to complete, obligations I needed to fulfill, and many more. And all these legitimate needs that needed to be done weighed heavily on me and left me overwhelmed, which affected my mental health greatly. Feeling overwhelmed can be caused by a whole range of triggers, which could be as a result of life changes that takes time to process, such as health concerns or getting diagnosed with a chronic disease that you have to live with for the rest of your life, going away to school, your relationship ending for no justifiable cause, taking up a new role or challenging position at work, losing a loved one, accident, witnessing a crime, financial worries, natural disasters, and many more. These triggers I just mentioned impact everyone regardless of their gender, age, or race. Each person has a different threshold, and no one person handles overwhelming triggers the same way. What could trigger this overwhelming feeling could be different for a lot of people. What overwhelms one person might not even bother the next. In my own case, there were three major triggers that triggered this overwhelming feeling in me. But in this video, I'll be focusing mainly on one, which is losing my dad. Losing anyone is never easy on any scale, no matter how old the person might be or how much time you've got to prepare for the person's departure from this earth. It's still difficult on all fronts. When I heard of the news of my dad's demise, it left me in shock. The thoughts that raced in my head were numerous. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt helpless. I felt very overwhelmed. When all these were happening, I literally couldn't do anything. I was always fatigued. I had aches all over my body. I had difficult falling asleep. I couldn't even make food for my little baby. Even my Parkinson's medication literally stopped working. I kept thinking about how my dad died, what he was thinking when he died, whether he knew he was going to die. I couldn't say rest in peace to my dad. Those words were nowhere to be found. The die is cast, and there is no crossing the Rubicon. These are the exact words my dad says when an irreparable loss occurs. This time, it was my reality. Oh, how I wish I could change what happened or turn back the hand of time. But I couldn't. Every now and then, I still call my dad's line in hopes that he's going to pick up. I don't know why I do it, but I still do it all the same. It still feels like a dream that my dad is gone and never coming back. And I know I have to deal with this loss as long as I live. But I have decided to take it one day at a time. I have found ways to cope with this difficult and heart-wrenching reality. At first, I didn't fully understand what was making me feel very overwhelmed and having all the difficulties I faced. So I took time to reflect and figure out why I was feeling the way I was. So anyone who has an overwhelming thought, ask yourself first, why am I feeling the way I am? What is causing me to feel stressed right now? Identifying and acknowledging what makes you feel overwhelmed is the first step. After I was able to identify what was causing the overwhelming feeling I was having, I was now able to deal with it in my own way. I think everyone has different coping mechanisms. For some, it might be practicing mindfulness or meditation or dancing or doing yoga. While for others, it might be speaking to a therapist or doing breathing exercises. What works for one person might not necessarily work for another. I accepted the fact that the loss has happened and there is nothing I can do to change it. Life is unpredictable, so we have to make peace with the challenges that will present themselves from time to time so long as we are on this earth. I didn't just ignore the overwhelming feeling I was having or suppress them, but I actually focused on what I could control. I fully understand that it is quite easy to focus on things that are out of our control rather than focusing on things that we can control. But I also know that it doesn't help focusing on things that are out of our control because there's basically nothing we can do about it. Intentionally, I started doing what I enjoyed. I started listening to music more. I will leave a link in the description box to a playlist of songs that has helped me. I made it a point to set time apart to bring joy into my own life. I spent a lot of time watching movies because watching meaningful movies has always been one of my escape mechanisms from worrying. This was one of the way I survived spending 8 years of my young life in isolation. There is another thing I do which is personal to me. What I mostly do, particularly when it gets tough, is to ask for help from a higher being. I ask the Holy Spirit for help. I am a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. And I believe in the Holy Spirit. This has actually been a game changer for me. In the early hours of the morning, I spend time telling him how I am feeling and that I need help. When I'm done offloading all my worries on him, I feel better. I don't know how he does it, but one thing I'm sure of is that after offloading all my worries on him, I come out of that place of prayer feeling fully energized and ready to face life with a positive attitude. Most of all, it is important to remember that feeling overwhelmed happens to everybody and that these feelings are temporary and that they are going to pass. Understand that what you're feeling right now won't last forever. Meanwhile, you could affirm yourself that you're doing the best you can. Tell yourself that this is a tough situation, but I can get through it. I feel despondent right now, but this feeling will pass away and I'll feel in control again. Though it is not always easy, but it is important to understand and learn ways you can cope with feeling overwhelmed because you typically cannot escape the challenges of life. Don't give up. I am rooting for you. There is always light at the end of the tunnel. Always believe that something magical, something wonderful will happen, and so shall it be.